Hey everyone, welcome everybody to IIM Ahmedabad specific session that we are doing, wherein I have Soptik, who's from Ahmedabad, rocking there as well, and look at his bright face. So Soptik, Soptik, welcome.
Thank you, Sudhanshu, for inviting me. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
and as I was telling everybody, everybody knows Soptik already. We've done the one of the most crucial sessions, which is the HR session that we have done. Soptik,
Yep.
welcome.
Thank you so
You
much.
know, the dream of MBA is, remains incomplete without talking about the most beautiful campus, which is the IIM Ahmedabad campus. So,
True, true.
Soptik, why would you tell us a little bit about life at IIM Ahmedabad? फिर बाकी सीरियस चीजें करेंगे, अभी थोड़ी
Sure,
मजे
sure,
वाली बातें कर लेते
sure. Hi guys, hi everyone. So just a quick introduction. So I am a second year student at IIMA. I'll be passing out in probably a month or so. But yeah, I think it's been an amazing 2 years at IIMA. Like the first year is obviously a bit hectic, and even before starting at IIMA, you'll hear a lot that the A at IIMA stands for academics. So I think probably along with IML, it's probably one of the acad heavy campuses compared to let's say like Bangalore and Calcutta and everything. But apart, yeah. So apart from academics as well, I think there's a lot happening inside campus. We just had our cultural fest probably a couple of weeks back, and that happened offline after a span of 2 years, due to COVID and everything. So there's a lot of extracurricular activities, clubs, uh, fests, sports activities, intersection sports, and everything. There's that big management fest also called the Red Brick Summit. TRBS. It's the short form for that is, and we have a lot of participation from across the country for such things. So it's just not padai and placements and just not those things, but a lot of things on the side as well. And like Sudhanshu mentioned, the campus obviously. So you can see in the picture that's called the LKP, the Louis Khan Plaza. So Louis Khan is the architect who built IMA in the 1960s and 70s. And so, sadly, a lot of the old campus is right now being renovated or is going to be renovated by the time you guys join. But we've got a new part of the campus, so a lot of interesting and exciting things happening on campus. So yeah, hope to see everyone, or I hope all of you do end up coming to IMA at the end of this journey.
Absolutely. So I'm sure, Soptik, the amount of efforts that we've already put, and everybody is doing it. And after this, a very amazing session that we do every year, focusing on the B schools. I think I'm Ahmedabad, we are focusing right now. I'm sure after this, we are all going to be ready to face the big interview. So Soptik,
Yeah,
very very quickly, moving on to my first easy question to you. My
yeah,
first easy question to you is your IIM Ahmedabad interview experience.
got it. Right. So I think the Ann Ahmedabad interview was probably the most structured interview that you will face in your entire interview season. And this is just not me speaking, but you'll hear that from a lot of people. Because quite often you'll see those interviews where they, ask you stuff generally out of the blue. Like in one of my other interviews, they asked me that, there's a horse climbing a mountain. How would you apply machine learning or data analytics to that? Which didn't make a lot of sense to me at that time. But IIM Ahmedabad is nothing like that. So they start off in a very structured manner. They go section by section. So they speak a bit about your work ex, or let's say you don't have work ex, then they speak a bit about your the subjects that you have studied in college and so on. And you a good chunk of that, like let's say one third to half of the interview goes in that aspect. And then they kind of move on to your personal life and what are your personal likes and dislikes, and so on, and what you want to do following an MBA and stuff like that. So how my interview went was that we initially started off with a bit of, so my background is that I'm a computer science engineer from Manipal. So we spoke a bit about that and why I would want to leave that particular field and get an MBA. So slightly on the lines of why MBA. Following which they asked a few technical questions related to computer science. So I had worked with stuff like virtualization and there's like Dockers and containers and everything. So we spoke a bit technical, went a bit technical there, and the professors also seem very knowledgeable about it. So it was more like a conversation as to why would you choose something of this sort and why not something else. Following on from that, they asked me like a very simple sort of maths question where they were like, how would you find the area of a circle without using the formula? So so I mean, I had heard similar questions being asked previously, and so I had a little bit of idea, so you could integrate over a area and figure that out. And that's something probably you will prepare for your other interviews as well. Like let's say Calcutta is very famous for asking such quant specific questions. So yeah, your preparation for Calcutta interview, let's say you suppose you have a call, then should help you out here as well. But Ahmedabad is not that notorious for asking such quant specific questions. Moving on from that, I think we spoke again a bit about technology, stuff like how GPS works, what is quantum computing, what is blockchain, and so on. There are a few things I didn't know, like, I mean, I didn't have any specific idea as to what quantum computing exactly was. So it's very important that you do not lose your nerve, or if you do not answer a question, it's fine. I mean, you can say that you don't know. You could probably take a shot. Some people like you taking a shot or a guess. Some people say that, if you don't know, you don't know. Just say it outright. So kind of try to judge from the professor's reaction. You can ask them that, I don't really know, but I can either take an educated guess or a shot at the dark here. So if the prof is cool with that, then yeah, you go ahead and try to take a guess. But it so might happen that you might be wrong. But that's all right. So can't really know each and everything, right? So
Absolutely.
following on from that, I think so there were two panelists, and the questions from the first panelist kind of ended here. And we moved on to the second panelist, and that was again very tech focused, but it was focused more from the point of view that how websites and search engines work, and what is search engine optimization, and how would you work towards that, and what are the factors leading onto it. So I spoke, so just before the interview, I had been actually reading about Google's page rank algorithm actually. And luckily they asked me a bit about that search engine optimization, so I was able to apply a bit of that knowledge and everything. So that kind of helped. But it happens that if you are from such kind of a background, from a technical tech background, it helps to know, how a bit about PageRank algorithm, a bit about ELO score and stuff like that. The underlying algorithms which are used by Google, so something like Dijkstra's and stuff like that. So the second panelist asked me slightly lesser number of questions, and we kind of then moved back again to the first panelist. And that's when they started asking me a bit about that, what I did in my personal life, or what were my hobbies and what I was interested in. And I had mentioned that I liked photography and I'm a sports fan. So they kind of latched on to the photography part. And we spoke a bit about as to how what kind of cameras were used when it was invented, and what is the generation of cameras used now. And that this kind of led to a bit of physics, which was not my strongest point, because as we all know that cameras work on the laws of physics, like refraction, reflection, a lot of mirrors and lenses and everything. So whatever knowledge that I had about cameras, I kind of used that. But then they asked me, diffraction and refraction में क्या difference होता है? And those were some concepts that I had said goodbye to in 12th standard itself. Like I was like, ये तो अब नहीं हो पाएगा. But yeah, so I mean, I tried my best there, but I told that my physics is not my strongest suit, but I'm going to give it a try. And I answered, let's say, satisfactorily, not the best, but yeah, again, I mean, you can't really help it, right? There are situations where it can go a little off track, or where you feel that it is not to your strongest suit. But so that's why it's often said that. try to steer the interviews towards your strongest point or towards areas that you're more comfortable with, so that you are not caught out in those particular uh, areas or particular points where the interviewer might latch onto something and then it kind of drives your interview towards a situation where you're not able to answer a lot of questions and doesn't leave a good impression on the interview, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, this was the overall structure of my interview. Uh, yeah, so this is how it went.
Perfect, Swaptik. I think it really sums it up. And I think a couple of points that I would want to take out is that it's going to be structured for sure. And obviously
Yeah.
that's something which we've taken out from multiple people who've done the IMA. So
Mhm.
structured interview is one thing that all of us should take away from
Yep.
this point. Obviously Swaptik answered a lot of questions correctly. Obviously to the best of his ability at that point in time, and he could not answer a few questions, but I can tell you this from his experience back in time when we had this discussion with Soptic as to how Soptic's experience was in the interview. I can tell you from my experience that for the question that he did not answer also, he was convincing enough. So don't lose your ground. That's very, very important. Don't become absolutely nervous that you are not able to answer a question. It's absolutely all right. Nobody knows everything. So stand your ground, stay confident. Sometimes I really appreciate in the mock PIs when somebody says that they don't know with such grace and honor, that they don't know it, but they are going to figure it out, they're going to check it, right? So that's something which we have to do now. Soptic, obviously, the questions like why I'm Ahmedabad does not exist, you know
Yeah.
right? so
Right.
so that's something which is very, very good. And in fact, the I am Calcutta maths questions guide is something that we are going to share with all of you. So you will have it with you before we do the I am Calcutta session. So do that, and that's something which is going to help you everywhere, because Calcutta is going to ask you a lot of maths questions, right? So from I am Ahmedabad Optic, what else would you want to tell them? What else do they need to understand or prepare from an interview experience
Right.
that can help them?
Right. So I think, firstly, be thorough with the major areas that we always talk about. So, which is first your college background or your work ex, because they really like people who are knowledgeable and who actually know in depth about whatever they have done in the past, and who uh, just haven't done things for the sake of doing them, but have actually enjoyed or have been passionate about whatever they have done. And so their rationale is that you would apply that similar kind of passion and get those experiences within the classroom, your discussions and everything as well. And that way you would add certain value in the classroom discussions, right? So that is one thing. Secondly, like I mentioned, be thorough with your work ex, be thorough with your college subjects, whatever you have studied. Be thorough about yourself as well. But from, like, let's say you are asked that why I am Ahmedabad. Generally, it's not I am Ahmedabad doesn't really ask that, because they are like, you might be asked this in other colleges, but not here. But still, good to know the good facts about I am Ahmedabad, which you can often incorporate into your answers. So, one thing is that we follow a case-based pedagogy. So where most of the subjects, where there will be a case given to you, a 10 to 12 page Harvard case or a IMA case, where there's a set narrative and stuff, and then you kind of figure out the learnings with respect to the subject from that particular case. So, although it's followed across a few other campuses these days as well, but I think IIM Ahmedabad was one of the pioneers of the case-based pedagogy in India, right? Secondly, obviously, the kind of teachers you have, the kind of faculty that you have. So quite often you'll find that there are people from the faculty from IIM Ahmedabad are in a lot of government positions. So on the Monetary Policy Council, you have a IMA prof. I forget his name, but yeah, he's one of the economics prof that we have. We have a prof who was a part of the World Bank before and who's teaching here now. We have an ex IPS officer actually teaching us, and he's had a lot of run-ins with the current government and etc. So he's got a lot to share. So you have such kind of personalities who's going to teach you and who you're going to interact on a daily basis. So that is something that is really amazing and which I really loved about IIM Ahmedabad. Apart from these, your diverse cohort and everything, those are I think added facts and not very specific to IMA, but like you'll find that in other top IIMs and top MBA colleges as well. Uh, in addition to this, I think another point that you can add is like we have a very robust exchange program. So a lot of us go to these foreign universities to for a 3 months course or so, where we kind of learn from our foreign peers, and we have people coming from abroad as well. So exchange is another thing that you can talk about and how that would add to your MBA experience. So these are some of the the good things or the good factors that stands out. Placements is obviously one thing, and uh, uh, like it's something that is very rigorously monitored here at IMA in terms of the placements, and we have a IPRS report that comes out, which is very like open and which is very transparent, not done by most of the other colleges. But again, talking about placements in your interview is probably not the way to go about it, or I would suggest that stick away from that. But good to know. I mean, stuff that it's a good fact to know. And yeah, in addition to this, from a lifestyle point of view and from extracurriculars point of view, we have about 50 odd clubs on campus from a diverse. So, like I mentioned, I really like photography, so I'm part of the photography club. I have a lot of friends who are part of the cultural committee and stuff like that. So that obviously adds to your entire MBA experience. So these are things I think which makes IMA stand out, and which are certain could be value additions in your interview if you would like to incorporate it anywhere, right?
Brilliant. So amazing. In fact, Optic, many of these guys would be thinking, the way you were talking about case-based pedagogy and diverse peer network. How is it sounding so unique when I am talking about it? It sounds like anybody else is also talking. So I think guys, I'm sure now as you are hearing Soptic, so the idea of presenting an answer with confidence is something which is very important. तो हो सकता है कि आपका आंसर किसी और के आंसर के साथ सिमिलर हो, बट आप कितने कन्विंसिंगली उसको प्रेजेंट करते हो वो भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. ठीक है. So bear that in mind. The amount of confidence that you bring while you present an answer also makes the answer special. Okay. हर टाइम आपका कंटेंट यूनिक हो जरूरी नहीं है, आपका प्रेजेंटेशन भी यूनिक हो सकता है. So that is something which we have to bear in mind. So something I think broadly we have covered the key aspects of for IIM Ahmedabad.
Mhm.
I think guys, I hope this bit is clear. If in case you have any questions that you would want to ask, you can share with us in the chat. Something beyond this, I think IIM Ahmedabad, as you've already mentioned, is going to be very structured and slightly oriented towards what people have done and less towards
Mhm.
something picked out of the blue and asking
Correct, correct.
right.
Yep,
सरप्राइज एलिमेंट बहुत कम है, तो देयरफॉर प्रिपरेशन आप बहुत अच्छे से कर सकते हैं यहाँ पे,
absolutely. Yeah,
है
yeah.
ना.
And yeah, so I think Mehak asked a good question. I was just coming to that. How is the AWT different from a normal WAT, right? So normal VAT is like you will find in I think Bangalore vagera, where they'll give you a topic like, let's say, OTT platforms or something, and how is that progressing, or that would be the general way. The normal VAT would be in a different college. The AWT is slightly different in the sense that it would be something like a question of a sort, or a certain premise that is given to you, a 3-4 line paragraph of sorts. So in my AWT was like, we are in a COVID era, and there's a lot of tendency to work from home and people are shifting to that. So why don't you kind of discuss the pros and cons of that, right? So generally they say that the AWT is very similar to the GMAT essays that people write. So I think there's a website called GMAT Club or something of that sort, which gives you a very structured approach of approaching these kind of AWT problems, right? So you can read a few essays. Honestly, there were people in my batch, who formed groups and who used to practice AWT on a daily basis. I wasn't one of them. मतलब मैंने थोड़ा चिल लिया था वो, because I knew कि topic दे दिया तो I'll be able to write something. But again, that is also something that you will probably need to structure a bit, like what is the initial premise and what are your inferences from that, and probably you support your inferences with 2-3 major points, right? That's how you approach a general AWT statement for IMA. Quite often you'll find that they actually they ask to discuss the AWT in the interview as well. Didn't happen with me, but I had heard instances where they ask you, tell us what you wrote in your AWT and why do you think so, or why. Could be because they ran out of content or something, but anyways, possibility here.
Perfect. Saptik, would you also recommend some bit of website research on IIM Ahmedabad to figure out maybe a few more things in detail, like values, vision, mission?
Yeah. So I think you can go through the website as well. You can learn a few things from there as well. What are the other courses and everything. Uh, and like I generally say ki matlab, don't be very upfront about integrating the values in each answer of yours. Like don't make it very evident, but you can subtly slip it in if you like, right?
Correct. No, absolutely. I think that is something which is Chandrasekhar is saying anyone wants to do that practice. Okay. So I think website research is also something that you can do. Don't make it obvious, as Saptik pointed out. Saptik, last question.
Huh.
Any questions do you have for us towards the end? How do you approach it? And what was your thought process during that time?
हाँ तो like generally कोई interview में they don't really give you a chance, so they'll be like thank you and you can. So IIM interviews में they always say pick up a chocolate or whatever is kept beside you and you can leave. But I remember in my IIM Bangalore interview they had told you can ask us any questions, but only if you feel necessary. मतलब essentially what they're saying is do not do DCP or do not desperately ask a question. Just ask if you really want to ask. So one question that I had in mind and which I think I had kept it common whenever I'd whenever I'd been given the opportunity was like, how has like COVID changed the teaching mechanism or methodology? Because we students obviously faced like a difference, but like was it different for the teachers as well? Which was kind of applicable back then because a lot of it was happening online. But yeah, so I think you can ask, but try to ask good questions. Do not make it very desperate or something of that sort, or do not ask stuff which is easily available on the website or can be easily researched. So then the professor will be like, you can find that on the website. So then you're wasting his time also. You're not getting a satisfactory answer also. So maybe run it by people before in your mock interviews that do you feel that could be a good question to ask. And yeah, then if you're giving the opportunity you can certainly ask them, and if it's a good question they often take out a lot of time and they explain it to you, and they're very friendly about that as well.
Perfect. So something I think very crisp and very useful. Thank you so much for joining us
No
tonight
problem.
and
No problem.
sharing some valuable pointers. Thank you so much, Saptik. I hope everybody here got some key pointers. Take care, keep preparing well, and I'm sure you're all going to do well. निमिष, AWT mostly समझ में आ गया. एक writing skill के ऊपर काम कर ले. अगर writing skill अच्छा है तो तुम लिख सकता है. Otherwise you are going to face problem. Structuring वहाँ भी करना पड़ेगा. Situation और premise के basis के ऊपर questions होते हैं rather than a general topic. That's the key difference that Saptik also highlighted. ठीक है. Thanks, Optic.
Thank you, Sudhanshu.
Take
And
care.
all the best, guys. I'm always reachable if you want to have any doubts or anything. So all the best and keep preparing well. Bye bye.
Take care, Optic. I'll see you. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye.